My favorite Christmas memory is back when I was 8 or 9 years old. We always got Christmas presents from Grandma and Grandpa. They always had Grandpa's name on them, but you knew Grandpa didn't have anything to do with them. One day after dinner at Christmas, my grandpa called me to his room. We went in and he pulled a little black velvet bag out of his shirt pocket and handed it to me. I opened it up and it was a pocket knife just like his. So I knew at that moment he thought I was a big boy then.
The second Christmas memory that we have has to do with a movie, a Christmas movie that we enjoy watching every year. It's called A Christmas Story. It's a story about a young boy who lived in northern Indiana who longed to get a Red Ryder BB gun for Christmas. One year, Kevin, after he was grown, as a gag Christmas gift, bought me a Red Ryder BB gun. And so we just had to take that thing out on the deck at our house and at least fire that thing away once. And so we took that BB gun out on the deck and shot it in the air, but it hit a branch on a tree that was in our backyard and ricocheted back onto the deck. Didn't land very far from me. Well, Kevin thought this was hilarious, and so he ran back in the house howling with laughter and said, "Dad just shot his eye out." And I want to show you, to this day, we still have a Red Ryder BB gun. Now, it doesn't have a compass in the stock, and it doesn't have that thing which tells time, but I can tell you it's still pretty good at knocking squirrels off of bird feeders.
Christmas at Hillcrest is always a very special time. I remember growing up here, and as a kid, I participated in the Christmas programs. We always acted out the Christmas story. Someone always sang "O Holy Night." And after the last prayer, Gilbert Vernon was always standing at the back of the church, and he was holding a big cardboard box with lots of goodies. And Gilbert would say something like this: "Folks, be sure you get your Christmas gift before you leave tonight." And people would start gathering up their coats and their Bibles and their kids with just a bit of an air of excitement, excuse me, and they would walk back towards Gilbert to get their gift. Now, the gift was a paper bag about this size. Sometimes it was a plastic bag, most usually a paper bag. Inside were apples and oranges and lots of peanuts and hard Christmas candy orange slices, and my favorite was cream-filled chocolate drops. The gift was very simple, but it was just perfect, and it was offered to all. It was a perfect ending to a very special time at Hillcrest.
So one of my favorite Christmas memories is back in probably 1987. There was a giant ice storm here in Lebanon, and a lot of the power and stuff went out, and we always gathered at my grandpa's around Christmas time, and we were a huge family. We were blended. At about age 6, my grandma passed away. And so my grandpa married someone that had 5 children, and he had 3 children, and they all had children. So when we all got together, there was about, anywhere from 75 to 80 of us. And so during that Christmas, the ice storm, we all decided to get coolers of hot cocoa and coffee and just take them to the neighbors and distribute them and make sure that they were all doing okay, just check on them. And so we all did that, my cousins and several of us. We just distributed throughout the neighborhood and took that to them. And then afterwards, we all came in every Christmas and had to stand in front of the fireplace and do a family photo. And as you can see in this one, my dad is not behaving, and so I'm telling him what to do, which was a normal thing with my dad. So that was one of my most favorite Christmas memories a long time ago.
My favorite Christmas memory brings me back to when I was 10 years old. We lived near Richland at this time, near the fish hatchery. My mom would always give us a Sears catalog. You guys probably remember the Sears catalog had so much in it, and she told me and my brother, he was 5 years younger than me, but she would tell us, circle everything that you want for Christmas in this catalog. And so that year, I had been to a friend's house and stayed all night with him, and he had a Nintendo. This was when Nintendos first came out, and I wanted one so bad. Me and him, we stayed up all night playing Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt, and I loved it. And so I circled in the Sears catalog many times Nintendo, and I told my mom, I said, this is all I want. I knew it was expensive, and I thought it's a far shot, you know, I might not get this, but I'm gonna try for it. And so I told my mom, this is it, if this is it. And so anyway, fast forward a little bit, it was getting closer to Christmas, and we were driving down the road, and my mom looks back at me, my dad was driving, she looks back, I was in the back seat, and she said, now Stevie, my mom and dad used to call me Stevie, she said, now Stevie, you might not get everything you want for Christmas. We don't have a lot of money this year, so don't be disappointed if you don't get everything you want. And so I took that as, well, she was letting me down easy, you're not gonna get the Nintendo. And so anyway, fast forward to Christmas. So it's Christmas morning. I open up all the gifts that they got for me. So I thought, my brother opened his, and my dad says, hey, you've got another present in the back. They'd kind of put it in the back of the tree there, so I couldn't see it very well. And it was a smaller box, and I thought, there's no way, that's a Nintendo. You know, I just thought it was just my last gift. And so I thought a Nintendo would be this giant, glorious box, you know. But anyway, so I go and I get it, and I open it up, and I tear it, and I see NES, Nintendo, you know, and I start freaking out. I start screaming. I remember running through the house holding that up, running down the hallway and back, just screaming at the top of my lungs. And then also there was Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, which was my favorite game. So I had that, and I got to play that. And I played that Nintendo so much that my thumbs, I had to use the sides of my thumbs because I had blisters. I played that thing so much. So, but that is a Christmas that I will never forget.
When Steve asked me for a couple of recollections about what it meant to be in the military and deployed during the holidays, it's hard for me to believe that it'll soon be 20 years since my last deployment to the Middle East. The command over there in theater was really pretty good. They tried to make it as easy as they could on us, even Christmas trees, and if you can believe it or not, ice sculptures in the mess hall in the desert. So it was kind of unique. A couple things I remember is that we would have our worship services and somebody would find a guitar, maybe a tambourine, but we had great praise and worship. And a unique thing is some of the chaplains told stories about how in the desert they would have salvations and they would literally have to hollow out in the sand a little depression and line it with waterproof ponchos to baptize the guys that were saved. So some of the pictures that you've been seeing run through that Steve's got is we went over, there's 130 of us, and our theater responsibility was Kuwait, Qatar, Afghanistan, and of course Iraq. We had quite a bit of helicopter work to do there. And the clock face that you see there is kind of a forensic or a CSI investigation, if you like those kind of things. But it's what we called an infrared jammer that mounted to the top of our helicopters. And there's at least 2 bullet holes that you can see there. But when it came in to be worked on, I told the guys I wanted that because it looked like a clock face to me. So that's what you see there. The other thing on that clock face is that you'll see a cross. And on that cross, it'll say Balad, Iraq 2004. And the story behind that is one of the chaplains from his parsonage or his pastorate back home, one of his church members had carved those little crosses and sent them over so that he could give them out to those of us that were coming through. And I picked it up into northern Iraq at there. I guess my point is that whether flying through the burning oil fields of Kuwait and Iraq, where Abram was moved out and on his way from Ur of the Chaldeans, or flying over ancient Babylon, I always knew that my church family and my own family was back home. I never felt out of God's grace. He was protecting me the whole time. Some people asked, was it worth it? And you bet it was worth it. I would do it again because there was so many things. We were there whenever Saddam was captured. We were there whenever the Iraqi people had their first general election for their government leaders. I guess my point is there are literally hundreds of U.S. service members tonight deployed worldwide, and they're away from their families and their loved ones. They're doing their duty to support freedom-loving people all over the world. My concern is that you would please remember them in your prayers, and especially their young families that are home, but every day, but especially during the holidays. Thanks.